The Detroit Lions took 6 players in the NFL draft, and in the first 2 rounds, they take cornerback. They do not decide to address the defensive line until later in the 6th round when they decided to take Mekhi Wingo with that pick. I believe they traded up just a few spots to get him. But with that being said, I saw this article from Pride of Detroit, and I thought it was very interesting. 6 Detroit Lions players that benefited from the 2024 NFL draft. Let's take a look at this and see our thoughts on this and see if we can kind of agree or disagree with what they say at Pride of Detroit. You can see James Houston right there to start things off. The first one, they have Antoine Green, the wide receiver. I do agree with this because a lot of you guys thought that we were going to take a wide receiver somewhere in the NFL draft, and we just talked about that in a previous video, and the Detroit Lions decided not to go that route, instead going to undrafted free agency for some. Now, we made a video about DJ Chark and the potential reunion return. If you look at, even Jarvis Landry, who took a year off from the NFL, is back in the NFL. I forgot what team he signed with, but even he's back. So the Detroit, if you look at free agency, it is no one there. Marvin Jones is still there. He's no longer with the team, but hasn't officially retired. But the way and what he was going through in life, I'm not sure he wants to come back to football. And if we would have him back, to be honest with you, I would take DJ Chark over Marvin Jones. So I agree with that. Antoine Green is wide receiver number 5 at this point, unless he gets beat out in training camp. I'm going to say, and then Josh Pasco, defensive end. They got him as a defensive end. He plays defensive tackle and defensive end. I agree with this as well, because with us not taking a defensive lineman until the 6th round, that says that they got a lot of faith in Josh Pasco, who can play both inside and outside. Now, Josh Pasco is going into year 3, so I think he has another year to be a Detroit Lion. It's his kind of counterpart, Levi O, that I'm not sure. I don't know if he makes the team. I feel like he can make the team. It depends on if one of the other linemen beat him out. But I think what the Detroit Lions would do is keep him for depth purposes and then release him at the end of his rookie contract, which will be the end of this season. Don't forget that he was part of Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell first draft. So I am going to agree that they benefited as well, those 2 guys. James Houston and Matthew Betts, I'm going to say yeah. It's funny because James Houston and Mekhi were both taken in the 6th round. Can Mekhi Wingo be another James Houston? We shall see. It's funny because he's not small. He weighs more than James. I want to say he's smaller than James, though. So there's a reason he fell to the 6th round, but you can say the same about James Houston. And don't forget, I will say this, is that the players that were drafted in the 6th round, I think Brad Holmes coming into this draft had only taken, if my research is correct, he had only taken Malcolm Rodriguez and James Houston. And those 2 guys were standouts back in 2022. But as the team gets better, those 2 standouts, we see what happened with Malcolm Rodriguez. He was exclusively pretty much on special teams. He came in and played some offense and some defense when he needed to. And even James Houston was on special teams as well. That is where he was when he got hurt. So, but the 6th round picks those 2 6th round picks have been kind of diamonds in the rough, if you will. So I think they did benefit from that with no edge rusher or anything like that being taken in a higher round. Safety Brandon Joseph is another person as well. Yes, because the Detroit Lions they took a safety, but this guy probably won't play safety in the traditional sense. We took, I can't really remember his name right now, but we traded up to get him. And then I saw something from Danny Rogers about how important, how much this guy, Sione, how much he meant to Brad Holmes, just his story and the fact that he had to try out 4 different times and he had to do 4 different workouts or something like that, really kind of earned his spot on the team. So the fact that we didn't draft a traditional safety, we did pick up some in free agency and undrafted free agency. I think that is true as well. And last, I think this is the last player that also benefited, would be kicker Michael Batley. Now we wind up taking the Michigan Wolverines kicker in free agency, wind up taking him, and I don't think that Michael Batley has anything to worry about when it comes to Turner. I don't think I think it's James Turner. James Turner, I don't think he has anything to worry about. I do, however, believe that if the Detroit Lions can hunker down and lock in the services of Jake Bates from the UFL, that then Michael Batley will have to worry, because Michael Batley doesn't do kickoffs and he's not that great, even though he had a tremendous playoff run with the Lions. But we know the consistency of Michael Batley over long periods of time. I believe Michael Batley was our kicker when we decided in 2022 to not go for something in Minnesota, or maybe we didn't have a kicker back then. Maybe I'm confusing that with another time. But who do you think benefited the most? I don't know. I don't know who benefited the most, but I think that all these things are true. And if you look at the totality of this draft, it's a lot of people that benefited. I mean, more wide receivers, the safeties, defensive linemen, right? Maybe Brad Holmes does have the faith in Levi. Maybe he does look at Levi like, listen, this is your last year. Because I think Levi, unless somebody gets cut or unless a opportunity opens up coming from somewhere else and the Lions have an offer they can't refuse, I think Levi does stay on the team just because this is his last year. We can't go wrong with any depth unless there's a person that outduels him and takes his spot and will be an asset over Levi. I think that we are going to wind up keeping Levi on the roster. So let me know your thoughts as far as Pride of Detroit. And do you think that those are 6 players that benefited from the NFL draft? I mean, you know, it's heat on all those guys. It's heat on, in my opinion, it's heat on every last one of those guys. I was going to say Marcus Houston, James Houston, Antoine Green, Brandon Joseph, who was an undrafted free agent. So, I mean, you know, that's like saying Vildor benefited when Vildor is a backup at best. So I think that while that is true, I think any of these guys have the, you know, breathing another player, whether it's undrafted, somebody cut. I mean, the Lions could sign a safety in free agency. There's still a lot of safeties out there. Tracy Walker is still on the market. He was one of the first safeties cut before even free agency even started. We're talking about after the Super Bowl, and Tracy Walker still doesn't have a team. So it's possible there could be a reunion there with the Detroit Lions, but I'm not sure. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Remember, this channel is brought to you by viewers, subscribers, and members just like you. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel, consider doing so, because we're going to have a great season, many more videos and Detroit Lions content to come. You guys are awesome. Take care of yourself and each other. And as always, go Lions.